Hi, this is Ted with TechRep Marketing. I'm hanging out in the studio today. It's a Sunday afternoon, and I don't have any work to do today, so working on a song with my cousins. I'm actually trying out a new piece of firmware that is about to be released to the marketplace. Since I'm the Presonus rep, I was able to get this a little bit early, and it's really, really cool. I've been using a StudioLive 24 now for a little over about a year and a half now in my own home studio. And it's I've done a couple other videos on it. I did a video about the plugins that the emulated plugins that you can use with it, and some of the other things with it. But I got to tell you, this new firmware is really exciting. It's like having a brand new mixer, and that's really one of the cool things about Presonus is that their products, because they're so heavily supported with software, when they have a new software update, it's not just bug fixes and things like that. There are some bug fixes in here, which is good. But the coolest thing is that this mixer now is a lot faster and just a lot more easy to use and a lot more fun to use. Also, there's more power in it. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here and kind of open the hood a little bit for you and tell you about the new 2.0 release for the StudioLive series mixers. This new 2.0 firmware that's coming out for the StudioLive Series III mixers is almost like having a brand new mixer. First of all, it is a lot faster. Screen updates on this are about 60% faster. The faders are way more responsive and way faster than they were before, and they were pretty fast to begin with, so that's another big recognizable change to the firmware. The other thing is that they changed the actual architecture that you have with your USB and with your AVB connections. So it used to be that you would have about 40 some channels on USB, and I believe 56 channels on AVB available to communicate with computers and other AVB devices. Well, now they've taken all of that and they're doing a full 64 channels, both on the USB connection and on the AVB connection. And what this means is that you have more access to more devices on the AVB network at the same time. So it really allows you to have a large variety of things connected to the mixer. One of the things that I use here in my own home studio, I have one of the NSB 8x8 stage boxes that I have in the other room that I use for tracking. I also have an ear mix on here as well, so we can use for doing separate monitor mixes for when somebody's in the other room tracking. And that's really a strong point of this mixer, is just the way the whole networking thing works. I mean, I can, instead of having to be stuck in here in the control room when I'm tracking vocals or something like that, I can actually go out, use my iPad, and stand right next to the vocalist and work with the vocalist on a more personal level. And what's nice about that is that you don't have that kind of isolation of somebody in the other room and then you having to go back and forth to or talk through an intercom system to help them with the performance. So this is one of the things that's really great, because I can sit there and it makes the whole process of tracking a lot more collaborative, because I'm sitting there in the room, just like a lot of engineers like to have people come into the control room and track in the control room because of that interaction you have with the artists. And it also helps the artist to be just a little bit more comfortable, because you're in a more personal type of a setting instead of being in another room and having these anonymous people recording you. So I think that's a really nice thing. So that additional networking capability is very nice. Also, 64 channels on USB, and what this means is that you have more inputs that you can have access to inside of Studio One. So this is a really, really big enhancement for Studio One users, people that are using this in a home studio environment. One of the other really big changes that's come for this is that now all of your outputs are available as spigots to the network and to USB. So now my auxes, if I want to have an aux or a subgroup or a matrix, all of those things now are available on the network as spigots to go and record into Studio One, which I think is a really just adds a layer of flexibility, and again, just is another kind of nail down point for making this a really good home studio interface. The other thing that came along with that is, because of the greater efficiency, because of the software, you now have the availability of your fat channel emulated plugins on your outputs, all your outputs, as well as your individual channels. And what this means is that I can put a bus compressor on a bus, and run a bunch of channels into it simultaneously. So that's really, again, another kind of really flexible thing that allows you to expand the mixer. And it's free DSP. I mean, the easiest way to think of it is you can now run a lot more effects, and it hasn't cost you anything, and it's just available in more places. And this has really changed the game a lot for me as far as mixing inside of the box, because it just allows you just a lot more flexibility with this. The plugins are already really good. So if you're looking for like an alternative to UA or a Steven Slater or something like that, these plugins are right up there in that category. Are they exactly the same? No, they're a little bit different, but in general, the quality of the emulated plugins inside of the Studio One environment and inside of the StudioLive Series 3 mixers, which can run the same plugs, are really good. And it's a really great way to have a lot of emulated plugins for not spending a lot of money. So again, just another checkbox for some nice things that have come out of this firmware. There are a couple other really cool things that have been added to the mixer as well. One of which is now that you have, you actually have, for people that are in a house of worship environment, you have multiple user profiles that can be set up on the mixer. So you have an admin profile, which is kind of the control over the whole mixer. And then you can have up to 10 individual users. So if you were in a house of worship environment and you want to go ahead and have one day the youth pastor comes in and the next day the music minister comes in, all these people can have their own set of settings that they like to use in their profile. It also allows the admin person, the master, to set what sorts of limits that person can get into in the mixer. So it just makes it so that they're not going to get into trouble. So if I want to set a volume limit on one thing and I want to only give access to another group of people to certain parts of the mixer, you have that capability. And all of those have their own password and their own security. So this is again a pretty big benefit for using this in a live sound environment. In addition, one of the other big updates that's come with this firmware 2.0 for the Series 3 StudioLives is that you now have the capability of doing both projects and scenes. And basically what a project is, think of it like a venue. The other systems will call it a venue. It basically is the settings that you don't change a lot. Sample rate, your routing configuration, those kinds of things that don't typically change a whole lot. You make a project for wherever your location is or whatever settings you like to have, and that don't change very often. And then you have individual scenes that you can change very quickly. So if you're doing theatrical work or something like that, or you want to have different, if you're in a house of worship environment and you want to have different settings for different services, you can have all of that separate from the master settings in the board. And this is just another place where you can kind of preset everything you want to have and make it so there's less chance for somebody messing up your settings. So this new firmware is going to be available to everybody who has a StudioLive Series 3. And it's totally free of charge. It's just going to be an enhancement for everybody that has invested in the StudioLive Series 3 mixers. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I can't tell you about this today on Sunday, but on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, they're going to be releasing this. So this is Ted Bejas with Tech Rep Marketing, and I'm going to get back to my Sunday afternoon and finish working on this mix. Thank you. Oh, by the way, if you like this content, please subscribe to my channel. And there's a little thing up there, a little bell up there. Click on that if you want to be notified when I put more new content up. Again, thank you so much. This is Ted Bejas with Tech Rep Marketing.